Hello, I'm Meowby. I don't normally talk in any of my videos, just record gameplay, but I want to make a make a video explaining some of the popular misconceptions about Psyker's Pygex or Inferno staff mechanics. It's pretty pretty popular these days, and there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about how some of the mechanics of it and the talents around it work. So I just want to clear that up and also make some value judgments on the implications of those mechanics and how you might build around them. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through a recent video with some examples of misunderstandings of the mechanics and then show some videos demonstrating why or how they actually work. Um, yeah, so let's see.
Like, right here.
Yeah, so
Fuck.
first
Come on.
up, we've got this idea that Berg can push through anything.
Yeah. It punches through, as you can see. It
Yeah,
like
it
punches.
does not. All right, so we got a Reaper, Reaper Crusher, bulwark, full channel into the shield. Crushes untouched by the flames. Move to the left, hits with the flames. The staff does not penetrate through bulwark shields. Up next, we've got some misunderstandings about how crits work.
Oh, also, every single crit tick from all those little dots is proccing Empathic Evasion, however the fuck you pronounce this. So every single time you see this staff like get a crit, which each crit chance is like rolled independently on all these enemies. So every little golden tick, the way this works is every enemy getting hit by the Purge Staff is rolling a chance to get crit on, well, while I'm holding down that M2.
Yeah, so that's not how crits work at all. Um, Basically, when you're channeling, there's a series of ticks a certain distance apart that apply damage in dots, and each of those ticks rolls to be a crit or not a crit. And if it's a crit, it'll crit on everything it hits or is pointed at that time, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. So you can see there all of the crits of those 5 lined up Reapers all hit at the same time and miss at the same time. And just in case that wasn't real clear that it was like critting or not critting on each tick, here's a build with just Mettle and perfect timing on there. Two crushes. I'll get rid of my toughness. I've got 100 toughness here, so each trigger of Mettle will give me 10. So I should only ever get toughness in amounts of 10. If they were rolling independently, I would sometimes one of them would roll and the other one wouldn't. You can also see perfect timing is hitting in stacks of 2. Yep, another 2. There's a bug with Mettle at the moment. Even though I'm getting crits at the end of the stream, Mettle will only trigger from a crit on a stream if it's the first instance of damage against a creature. It doesn't have to be the first tick of damage of the stream. It's just the first tick of damage on that creature, which has this weird effect. If you move off and on a creature during a stream, it'll have a chance of triggering Mettle both of the first times it touches them. But yeah, anyway, you can see here the The numbers are going up in even amounts. Mettle's capping out at 3, which is why that's an odd number. Alright, and so up next we've got Empathic Evasion, and this isn't so much a mechanical mistake, just a massive overestimation of its potential uptime, so let's listen.
Empathetic Invasion, there I actually said it right that time. So again, remember those crits? Every time we crit, you also get a full second of range damage immunity, which just encourages you to spec into crits even more.
Alright, so I've got a build here to test various ways of applying high amount of crits to sort of see how often Emphatic Evasion is up. Got all the crit chance. Got a bunch of gunners in the wall so that they wouldn't run away from the suppression. Bunch of plague ogrons stuck in there so that they wouldn't come and attack me. Had to turn off invisibility so that they would shoot me. So yeah, you can see here I'm doing full charges, and while I'm streaming up, the uptime's not too bad, but the amount of time while I'm charging up, I kind of would die every single time. So yeah, you're pretty invulnerable while you're streaming out on a full charge, but dead otherwise. This time I'm doing short charges. You can see the uptime's a bit better. Still not perfect, I'm getting shot a bit. But the coverage of Emphatic Evasion is pretty good. You can see the buff obviously in the middle here, a bit there to show when it's on and off. Even with these short charges, there's fairly frequent lulls in there. I put 10 Plague Ogrons there, mostly to trigger more toughness regen off Mettle, to give myself a chance to fight the bullets. This time using primary spam to try and keep up Emphatic Evasion. It's still a little bit insufficient. Not bad though. I mean, obviously in a real game you would be attacking the gunners to stop them from getting you, but the point of this is just to show how consistent Emphatic Evasion is. Monsters jumping out at me. Spawn some more back in. And this final one's with Quell cancelling to fire the primary much faster. You can see here the uptime's fairly decent. My toughness hasn't been broken yet. Yeah, so that's about the only reliable version of spamming attacks to sustain enough evasion to not get shot a bunch.
10% quell speed, to put this into perspective, from 60% to 80% quell speed, to even perceive that there was a difference in the first place, I literally had to record 80% versus 60% and then count the frames in a frame by frame like recording analysis after the fact. It is imperceivable to the human eye. It's literally like a 12 frame difference. It's absurd.
Yeah, so now we're looking at Quell speed and how Quell works on all of the 4 stars, but I guess today on the Inferno stuff. This is another one.
And quell speed is basically entirely irrelevant. It literally, I've counted the frames. The difference between like 80 and 60% quell speed is virtually imperceivable to unless you have like trained reaction time. It's like 17 frames, dude. It's like nothing.
All right, so here's some test situations. I've got 3 different staffs. This one has 5 quell speed, just for an extreme demonstration. Um, the next ones have 60 and 80, which are the 2 normal values. You can see here I've got solidity and the build path to solidity. Nothing else is functioning here in any way. Quickly generate up to 100 peril. 1 tick of quell, 94. Always 94. So the misunderstanding there is that quell happens in ticks at set intervals, and the default UI has a lerp function that shows that number nicely running between them, which makes it look like quell speed is doing things that you would want to measure with frames, whereas in reality, you hold the quell button for long enough to trigger a tick of quell, and you get a number based on your quell speed stat. And let's go back here. This same staff, this time no solidity. We'll get up to 100 peril, and exactly the same amount of quell with and without solidity. So what solidity does is it shortens the gap in time between ticks of quelling, but doesn't actually increase the amount you quell at all. We'll talk about that more when we get to the next section. This is a 60 star. We were getting, what, 94, 6 before? Now we're getting 90. So having a 60 is worth 4 more peril for each single tick quell. This one we're jumping up to 80, which is why everyone recommends, and this is why everyone recommends it. 1 tick of quell buys you 12 peril. And so, especially in Havoc, where you get minus, what is it, 85% quell speed, is also only affecting the time between ticks. And if you are doing single tick quells, the penalty of Havoc has no impact whatsoever on you. Whereas if you're the sort of player to hold down the quell button and go from high to very low, you'll definitely notice that in Havoc. If you're edging your peril and keeping it high, you probably don't want to be doing more than 1 tick anyway. Yeah, therefore you want 80, and it's important because 2 extra peril might be the difference between getting off an extra primary or getting off a slightly bigger charge. Yeah, so let's now hear about solidity.
Inherency. And one thing that the increased quell speed lets you do, which I show off in the other video, but I just want to show it off again here in case this is the only thing people are interested in. So you just tap Quell for a second, and there you go. You're good. Thanks to solidity.
Yeah, so if you do that, solidity makes no difference whatsoever, unless you're doing more than 1 tick of quelling. So, cool tech, bro. Up next, we've got Wildfire and how this works. Let's listen.
Wildfire is fucking terrible. Wildfire takes 4. I don't know why it says this. Nearby enemies each gain up to 4 stacks of Soul Blaze. The testing that I have done and everyone else has done, the way this node actually seems to work is you kill an enemy with Soul Blaze, and then it takes one stack, capping it 4, and applies 4 instances of one stack, which just means it applies one stack to 4 enemies around the target. I don't understand if this actually had like a 10-meter radius and applied 4 stacks of Soul Blaze every time you killed something, like with Soul Blaze on it, it'd probably be overpowered.
Yep. Yeah, it would be entirely overpowered if it was any better at all. Alright, so here's a little demonstration of how Wildfire actually works. We kill one guy with a bunch of stacks, puts 4 stacks onto the crusher. Kill one guy next to 4 crushers. Spreads out those 4 stacks, 1 on each of them. Kill 4 guys next to 4 crushers. 16 stacks to go around. We get 15. I guess the back guy was too far away to reach. Which raises the question of exactly what is the range of Wildfire and why we're here. What's the range of Perilous Combustion? One dude stuck in the wall, he's 10 away, 6, so he's 4 away, 5 away, and he's 6 away from the dude in the wall. Put some stacks on him, so Wildfire is gonna proc. Then we just go about murdering him. Miss his head. Maybe Brain Burst will work. And there we go. 4 stacks spread up to 5 meters, and then the 3 stacks of Perilous Combustion getting 4 meters. Now let's look at how stack refreshing works.
So, but the trick there is when you start building uncanny stacks, because look, you get about 5 ticks of this dot before the damage starts going down. See? 3, 4, 5, and then it goes down.
Alright. Let's see how stack refreshing and lasting actually works. Oh, actually I timed this nicely. So up in the top corner is a number. So I applied the last stack. Tried to time it as well as I could to hit 0, 0 on that little cycling minute timer. You can count the dots, it's more than 5. Lasts about 8 seconds before they start decaying. Applying more, puts it back up. If you apply a dot that is within the cap you can apply, you refresh it. So you can see it won't start ticking down until it was 8 seconds after the last application. Get a crit, and then put it up to 22. It's gonna last 8 seconds again. Then I'm going to try and apply some stacks while it's overcapped. And you can see that that does not refresh it, because only dots that could be applied within a cap are able to refresh. So proccing Perilous Combustion or Shrieking again would have reset the high count, but you can't reset it with your stuff. Now let's look at some scaling of Soul Blaze.
Stacks that go over the cap add significantly more damage than all the stacks that came before them. Adding this doubles the dot's damage again.
Doubles? Sounds pretty good.
Virtually the same damage. Venting Shriek adds 40% damage to your stacks on top of the 40% damage from Blaze Away.
40? Sounds more reasonable. Let's find out how Soul Blaze really scales up. I'm applying 1 stack at a time here with Shriek and resetting my Shriek timer. It's the easiest way to control it, going up 1 stack at a time. All of these numbers are obviously for unyielding. It's a little slightly different on each type, but don't worry too much about the numbers. I've put them in a nice table with some math I can put up on the screen. Yeah, so you can see it goes up. We've got the number of stacks in the top row here, the total damage it's doing at each point, how much each stack is added from the last amount. The sweet spot is kind of 11 through 20 is when you're getting 17 and 18 value. It's the kind of biggest jumps. The next row has got the percent of the total damage that extra stack represents. So going from 2 to 3 is a 50% increase in the DPS. In this row we've got the potential shriek value. So if you shriek from this value, it'll jump up to 10, is 105. No. Jump from 18 up to 92, which is 72 more, and that represents a 400%, 411% increase. So shrieking from one stack, huge value, just because one stack's terrible. Yeah, and so, I mean, 10 is almost right. If you shriek at 10, it doubles the damage. If you shriek at 15 or 16, getting 1.5 the value. If you shriek up to 21 and then shriek again, you're getting less the second time, but it's still a decent increase. And in the very bottom row, we've got a line of what starting with 4 stacks ahead of the curve would look like, to represent Wildfire. Which I guess I forgot to really talk about the value judgment of that after the mechanical side of it. So yeah, so let's go back and talk about Wildfire and why it is so contentious, because it gets argued about constantly, and there's a pretty standard thought, evolution that players go through. They'll read the description, and it's a confusing description, and they'll misunderstand it and have quite high expectations because it sounds amazing. Then they'll work out it doesn't do that, and they'll be real disappointed. Be like, this is terrible. It's the worst talent ever. Like, how rubbish. It doesn't work how I expected it to. And then eventually you'll start to think about some nuances in the game and quite what Wildfire is going to do in the actual context of things. So the first thing it does is it gives you a head start of 4 stacks against a lot of creatures. And you can see here in this graph that starting 4 stacks ahead is pretty good. If you were playing 1 stack and it had Wildfire on it already, you're doing 25 more damage than you would have otherwise. If you apply 6 stacks or a Shriek and it had Wildfire on there already, then now you're pulling 55 more damage. Like, it's a 150% increase. And I mean, it's not always going to trigger. You're not going to get this value on every single creature, but most of the creatures are going to be in these bottom 10 stacks at some point for quite a few ticks of their short lives. And so, yeah, Wildfire is adding some amount of damage. It's not the most damage, but it's not nothing. But it's better than it seems. But the real value of Wildfire is that it will apply the first stack to the majority of targets. And I was going to correct this, but the note has already been added in the comments. The first stack applied of a dot gives whoever did that ownership of the dot, which will then determine all of the buffs, all of the perks, all of the talents, or which players' buffs, talents, and perks will modify each of those damage ticks. And so if you're a perk stuff user, you're getting Blaze Away, Warp Rider, etc, etc. Your weapon perks, because you're running flak, everything's flak, etc, etc. And if you're playing next to another Psyker who's running Blazing Trauma or Blazing Void Strike or whatever, or just shrieking a lot in a surge build, they're going to be applying a bunch of stacks. And if they're applying the first stack more than you are, then none of your buffs, none of your Blaze Away, none of your Warp Rider from maintaining high peril is having any impact at all because they have applied the first stack. And the best thing you can do to counter this is to run Wildfire, because that's going to give you ownership of most of the stacks, which are going to be around the edge of the fight. They're going to spread and apply the first stack because they can only go on to things that don't have stacks yet or have low stacks yet. And you end up owning most of the stacks, and then you end up getting all of your bonuses applied to it. So the main use case of Wildfire is when you're running with another Psyker who is applying Soul Blaze and isn't perked. In that situation, it's sort of an auto lock, unless you can use some diplomacy to try and convince them not to run those things. Get the trauma user to run rending or whatever else, or you're in a low level game and who gives a shit, so throw on Wildfire and eat all their damage, have a race about it. But yeah, it's its main use case, and it's a weird one, and unless you understand the first stack ownership, then it's really not going to seem like a very good talent until you understand the context of getting head start and owning dots. Game doesn't explain it. Easy to not know. Alright, and now time for some
Now, let's
more
talk about something else.
judgment.
Why is it so good versus armor? And this has to do with two facets. One, the penetrating flame blessing, which is getting its own video because it's not that good.
Yeah, it's not good.
Okay, and now I want to talk about using a stim. Because just like Uncanny, you can use a stim the exact same way, for the exact same purpose. Okay, so now we dot these dudes up.
Yep, they die pretty slowly. So, the first problem with all of that is that you have Uncanny on your sword, which gives you 120 or 125 or whatever rending. So, on Percutus, if you want to kill Crushers, and they're literally the only enemy that is relevant in this discussion, you get out your melee, poke it 5 times, and then you have stripped all of its armor, negation, and getting a 5% damage bonus from the overrending. That is always, like, by far the most effective way to kill them. And getting 20 rending or 15 brittleness or any little value is just not going to be the way to deal with it. So it's never worth it to have penetrating flame. And the bugged talent that doesn't give you 10 rending at high warp wouldn't be good even if it worked. But yeah, let's look at a video to see how much damage penetrating flame is adding to things. No build, don't need one. First up, we've got flak. Put some stacks on it. See what the stacks look like. With 20% rending, is that little number on the right in the yellow. Sticking for 148. Rending drops off 143. Adding 5 damage out of 148. That's what. I don't know. I'm not gonna guess, but that's a real low percent. Basically nothing. Let's see what it looks like on Maniac. Up to 20 rending and a bunch of stacks. Sticking for 88. Rending drops off. 84. 4 extra damage. 5%. Unyielding. 130. With 20 rending. 126 without rending. And now Carapace. Crusher. The one creature this works against. 19. Drops down to 7. So it's doubling the damage. It's not bad. It's just considerably worse than using Uncanny Strike. Maybe if Uncanny Strike gets nerfed one day, and God willing it will, then this will become relevant. But for now, all of this is pointless, bad, and not a selling point of the Pygex in any way.
Every time you Brain Burst, and there's a synergy here as well, every single kill you get with Brain Burst procs Essence Harvest. So if you are in a situation...
Yeah, that's not how that works. Here's a boring little video showing that Essence Harvest procs whenever you get a warp charge. You get one for killing an elite, you get one for killing an elite. You do not get one for brain bursting a not elite. The little Essence Harvest buff icons in the middle and the right there. It was up at first, not showing. Pretty sure I go back to kill an elite at the end to remind everyone what that looks like. Yep, here you go. And I can't be bothered finding the thing where he says it, but Essence Harvest refills 30% of your toughness, and there is no toughness damage reduction involved. I'm not gonna find the clip where he says that, but it's not toughness damage reduction. On the plus side, it does make Fire Reborn pretty good. That reminds me, yeah, Wildfire and Fire Reborn. You only need one stack of Soul Blaze on a target for Fire Reborn to be triggered. And so if you Shriek a Horde that your team is fighting and then fight in the other direction for a minute and your team is chopping all those dudes with Soulfire on it, Soul Blaze, Soulfire, game is this? Wildfire is going to continually spread through anything that gets close to your meleeing teammates as they kill more things, and they're going to only have one or two stacks on there, but if your teammates are effective, it'll add a lot of things that eventually die with some amount of stacks of Soul Blaze on there, which will trigger Fire Reborn a whole bunch. The one nice thing about Essence Harvest is that even if you're at the warp charge cap, you can still trigger the toughness regeneration, which makes the Infire Reborn even better. Just whenever that 10% chance procs, then you're getting toughness. I don't run it, but it's a respectable choice.
Coherency sucks. There's really no reason to increase the radius of your coherency. And
Alright, there's no reason to increase the radius of your coherency. Let's look at another talent.
Psykinetics Aura is the single strongest passive node in the entire game.
Yeah. Guess what determines whether Psykinetics Aura applies to a teammate? Allies and coherency. So, taking Puppet Master to increase your coherency radius from 8 to 12 meters basically doubles the area in which your teammates will be benefiting from Psykinetics Aura, which is the best talent in the game. He's right about that. We saw before that solidity does nothing useful if you're single tick quelling and edging, assuming you're good at this class. But doubling the area of your psychokinetics aura, pretty useful. It also works backwards. So if you're a, I don't know, if you were shooting a gun and you were running with a veteran with survivalist, then it adds 50% to the range at which you will absorb ammo from them doing the thing. Yeah, radius pretty good. It's not all about toughness, which is awful. We know.
But +3 max stamina means that you really don't. This is going to be controversial, but it's the truth. You really seriously don't need kinetic deflection if you're taking +3 stamina.
So I run kinetic deflection and a +3 stam, and there are basically two situations I do that to deal with. One of them looks like this. All of a sudden, there's a ton of rages in your face, and you could last quite a few seconds, easily long enough to do something about the problem. If you just have +3 stam, you have about half a second before you're dead. Maybe you never have a bunch of rages appear around you, and it's not a problem, but yeah, it's not uncommon. The more common situation is when your teammate dies to that situation and you want to res them. With kinetic deflection and a +3 stam, you can run into the middle of absolute nonsense. Probably not 10 rages, but hopefully some of them will be attacking your dead buddy, and get the res off. So it's one of the few things I put in my build as a lose less like choice. You won't really use it very often in a run, but occasionally being able to get off a res in the middle of absolute madness while being absolutely wailed on or rescuing a teammate, um, which this kind of build generally struggles with. You can't go invisible, you can't stagger everything for a long period of time to buy yourself enough space for a res. You basically have to tank things when you res them, and that's why you run +3 stam and kinetic deflection. It also lets you tank a demon host pretty trivially too, which is fun if you wanna do that kind of thing.
Empyric Resolve is the worst skill node in the game. 40% less peril generation, even on like a lightning staff build, is generally not seen as a good thing by any player who's like very good at the game. It is 100% seen as a downgrade. And then you consider that that's supposed to be the benefit of this node. The 30% toughness replenished is supposed to be like the downside, but think about how big this downside is. So you're generating less peril. That means you get less uptime on this for damage reduction, you get less uptime on this damage increase, and you get to generate less peril for this, which means there's less peril to quell for this. Okay, right. Yeah, so I'm going to lower my peril, which makes me take more damage, deal less damage, and regenerate less toughness. Then on top of that, you're also going to make it so that I get less toughness on the little bit of toughness I am regenerating because of the massive hit to my peril generation.
Yeah, so he's right. It's not a popular pick, but it's not entirely useless for an interesting reason. So I've got here a video just looking with various amounts of warp resistance on Inferno styles. Let's just verify that tree there. No Empyric Resolve. Alright, so get up to 100 peril, get 6 warp charges, shriek, and then spam channels from 50 to 100. Let's go back and count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triggers. Oh, not off cooldown to save you. I mean, that's what a 5 warp resist, though. I mean, that's the dream. It's what the meta is apparently. So here we've got a fairly normal looking one. Get our stacks. It was a little delay before I started casting there, so we'll count off. I think it was what, 6? One more than last time. So again, 60 warp resistance. What most people that aren't doing the warp dump thing will run, because you want the 80 Quell speed. This time we've got Empyric Resolve. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so more. Why is this? Why am I showing you this? So there's a tension in peril mechanics. You want to go from 0 to 80 as fast as possible. Like, if you could push a button to skip from 0 to 80, you would do it every time. When you get to 80 though, you want to spend as much time before you hit 100 casting and doing attacks without quelling or wasting your time doing other things. Because that's the sweet spot. You want to do the most attacks while you're in that sweet spot. So in an ideal world, you have 0 peril warp resistance from 0 to 80, and then 100 warp resistance from 80 to 100. If you take Empyric Resolve, you add minus 40 peril generation between 80 and 100, and all of the way down, which sounds like a terrible idea, until you find a much faster way of generating peril than the Inferno Star.
Purge Staff Psyker, and then look, 9-second cooldown on the ultimate. I literally couldn't build 50% peril in 9 seconds, even if I wanted to.
That's 40 more persist on a Demoth. I would encourage everyone burning the auto dockets on Inferno Stars, trying to get a warp dump, to burn them on Force Swords instead. Alright, pump the yellow stem, 6 stacks of warp charges. How quickly can we get enough peril to do another full stack? Pretty much on cooldown in the maximumist cooldown situation, short of killing a bajillion elites stacked on top of each other. If you want to get a warp dumped Demoth and not run Empyric Resolve, that works really well. Let's see what that looks like. It obviously gets to high peril even quicker. the yellow stem, shriek, 2, 3. 3 charges to 100 peril. Yeah, and obviously I was playing with this sword in this build before Empyric Resolve existed. That's how I played. My initial reaction to it was that it wasn't good until I thought through the dynamics of peril at different things, tried it out, tested how fast I could still get high peril, which is even with Empyric Resolve, the Deimos can push through that and get up to 80, and then you can cast there forever. And I guess the thing that really pushes this from like a weird meme that people think I am kind of unhinged for suggesting is the way Blaze Away works with maintaining stacks between charges. So if you do minimum charge up secondaries, if you have 5 stacks at the end of one, which I mean you will, if you do 45% charge or less, then you will still have 5 stacks as the next one channels. Repeat, 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 giving you 100% uptime on a 40% power buff. And that 40% power buff is more significant than any amount of peril buffs. So basically, in a fight, you will want to dot everything up to cap. In doing that, you'll get to high peril. Or you can jump up with your sword or whatever if you need to. From cap, overstack everything, and then you've got a bajillion soul blaze out in the world. And the most beneficial thing you can do from that point is to keep Blaze Away at full stacks for as long as possible without stopping to Quell, without stopping to do anything else. And Empyric Resolve is the one thing that lets you do that. Yeah, and gives you a fairly significant damage boost to your output. Yeah, turns out staying between 80 and 100 peril is actually a lot easier with a lot of negative peril generation. The only problem is getting there, and luckily that problem's entirely solvable. Yeah, so that pretty much sums up all of the things I wanted to correct about mechanics and criticize some value judgments or short-sightedness on the logic of how the mechanics work and what conclusions you might draw from that. Been a pretty theoretical video, but if you want to watch some actual gameplay, I have some of that there too, just so you can see that this works in practice. It's not just theory. Yeah, if you've listened to all of this, thank you. I apologize for my terrible editing, terrible quality of video. I'm not trying to be popular. I'm not a content creator. I've played this stuff for, I don't know, more than a year and a half. It's kind of my special interest. I like to understand the mechanics, and I would like other people to understand those mechanics and enjoy the stuff. It's pretty fun if it's your kind of groove. Yeah, and if we all get good enough at it, then they'll nerf it, and we can all feel accomplished. GG update.